let's just start the way we always do, kind of this week in the news. It always seems to relate to the offensive line, right? Doug Marrone was asked questions about arm length. He was asked questions about switching sides at tackle, and he downplayed all of it. He said at tackle, it's just a matter of, it's something you consider, but if you look on tape and you consider it and you don't see it being a factor, then it's not a factor. The guy can play around it. On switching sides, he talked about when he was with the Saints back in the mid-2000s, and they had a tackle who switched sides from right to left and became an all-pro. So we've now had Vrabel downplay that stuff. We've now had the offensive line coach downplay that stuff. We'll see what happens with Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter. And if you check out my mock draft from this morning, I have kind of a latest thought on that. But if those guys are gone, the noise just gets louder and louder that whether it's Will Campbell, whether it's Armand Membu, those guys have their questions. The Patriots seemingly would be comfortable with either one at left tackle with the 4th overall pick.
Yeah, so conflicting feelings on the Doug Marrone angle of this and what he was talking about. I'll start with the positive.
Yeah.
The positive is that he's talking openly about Will Campbell, Armand Membu, and he mentioned other Josh Carnley and other guys that he was involved in sort of recruiting in the recruiting process.
When he was at Alabama, yep.
So he's talking openly about, high-ranked prospects at the position. And so that tells me they're going to invest heavily in tackles at the draft, whether it's Will Campbell at 4 or whether they trade up into the first round or high up in the second round to take their tackle. They're not going to ignore the position the way they have in previous years. I know it's been one of my big concerns that they sort of ignored it in free agency, but they are going to make a big investment at tackle in the draft. And Doug Marrone is a guy that, more than most guys in the league where you think that he has the ability to mold them into a starting left tackle if he has to, whatever he has to do, whether it's moving Armand Membu to the left side or getting Will Campbell to use his arms properly. I know one of the things he says is I've had guys with 34-inch arms that didn't use them right. Yep. I've had guys with shorter arms that made the most of it.
Yeah.
And so I give Will Campbell a good chance based on his other athletic abilities, and we talked about it last week, his whole intangible, those aspects. I give him a good chance to sort of work on that and sort of make the most of whatever physical limitations he might have, mainly with the arms. And so that's good. They're going to invest high in the draft in a tackle. The concern here is that this is my big overarching concern when they hired Mike Vrabel and they started hiring, they brought Josh McDaniels back and they hired Marrone. They hired all these experienced coaches where it's are they just going to think that they could just hire a great coaching staff and that's going to make up for lack of talent? We don't need to invest too much in talent. We got this great coaching staff. They'll get the most out of these guys. And so that there's just a double-edged sword there where Doug Marrone is here. Yeah, very good offensive line coach. I'm confident that they're going to get the guys, all on the same page and all that. But where is the talent going to come from? Are they going to actually invest in talent? And so some of the concerns are alleviated that they're probably going to invest in a high draft pick at tackle. And so it'll be better than what they had last year. They're gonna upgrade over last year, which is good. It's just I feel like there's a little bit of risk involved when it comes to you're talking about moving Armand Membu from right to left, and as you said, Tristan Wirfs is the only starting left tackle that played right tackle full time in college, so relatively rare to do
in
that.
The last 10 years. Tyron Smith did too, but that was an eternity ago.
Well, a decade is a pretty good sample size.
I would say so.
But and then there's Will Campbell with the arm length and all that, so it's there's an element of the coaches are going to have to sort of work with it and get more than we're kind of expecting. Yeah. It's not the same as if they just signed Ronnie Stanley and just plant him in there. You're our left tackle. And so there's still going to be questions about the left tackle spot, even going into camp and who's going to play there. And are they going to get the most out of that player? I just think there's still work to do there.
So I guess some of that to me, though, if I can just push back a little bit, is the nature of what this offseason was. Right, they couldn't get Ronnie Stanley. They didn't have a chance. Maybe they should have gone in on Robinson, on Cam Robinson, but it sounds like they were uncomfortable. Your point about the coaching staff, and all right, well, we have this coaching staff, so we're going to go to the side on talent. I almost feel like this is the opposite. You're drafting Campbell and Membu because they have natural talent. It's up to the coaches to get them drilled up on the technique and you are betting on the coaches, but to me, being well, we have really good coaches, so we don't need the talent. And maybe this is semantics, would more so be, all right, well, we have really good coaches. Yeah, these guys are more talented, but they're not exactly what we want. So we'll take the guy who's more exactly what we want in the makeup, who's less talented because we can bet on the coaches, versus, to me, taking Campbell or Membu is we're bringing these guys in because they're talented. They're not, it's a little bit of a square peg in a round hole, but we believe because they're so talented, we're going to be able to make them fit. So again, maybe that's just semantics. There's still coaching involved either way, but I feel like what they would have done in the past is, all right, well, we need a left tackle, and we want a guy who checks this box for the personality and this box for the experience and this and this. And, oh, the guy that checks all 10 of those boxes really doesn't exist until the 5th round.
Yeah.
So that's where we're getting our tackle.
Or just we're confident in Vidarian.
Or Vidarian Lowe checks the boxes more than anybody else, right?
I think that is why the concerns are a little alleviated. It's like they're going to invest in a talented player early in the draft, whether it's first round, whether it's at the 4th pick or the 2nd round. So they are going to invest in a talented player, which is good.
Yep.
And so that's better than we feel like we can get the most out of Vidarian Lowe, and maybe we'll move Caden over from right tackle to left tackle like that. That I would have been completely out on that if that's what Marrone was saying. So I think it's fair that they're gonna invest in a high draft pick. Whether people will have their questions about those specific players, but like you said, I guess this is just that kind of year where it's like they couldn't get Ronnie Stanley, never even hit free agency, and then draft. You have imperfect prospects. There's no perfect answer at that position, but it's just it's hard not to be a little concerned where that's their biggest spot, biggest area of need
again
going into the offseason. And it's unfair to say it's their biggest question mark going into the season, assuming they draft a Will Campbell or an Armand Membu. But there's just going to be work to do. It's not going to be a slam dunk what you're going to get out of that. So I think that's just going to be something we're going to have to watch throughout the summer.